From Holy Trinity Church in Inwood, New York City, welcome to Inwood Art Works On Air. It's where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes that make their home what we affectionately call Upstate Manhattan. I'm your host, Aaron Sims, and today we welcome theater artist and filmmaker Lena Kaminsky. Lena studied acting at Emerson College and has been working in theater and film for over 20 years. As an actor, she worked in TV, film, and regional theaters across the country and has written 2 full-length plays, Salvage and Ursa Major. Her short film, Little Mouse, which she wrote and directed, is her first film and is currently making its way through the festival circuit. In addition to the Inwood Film Festival, it has screened in Los Angeles and NYC Audience Award, and Dances with Films, Outshine in Miami, Best Short Film, Honorable Mention, and upcoming screenings with the Albuquerque Film and Music Experience, Vancouver Queer Film Festival, and Middlebury New Filmmakers Festival. She also has a casting business, Selective Casting, that focuses on educational and corporate industrials. And she lives here with her wife in Inwood. We're thrilled to have her here today. Lena, thank you so much for joining us here on Inwood Art Works On Air.
Thanks so much for having me.
You betcha. How you been?
I've been good.
Great.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, can you tell our listeners a bit where the idea from Little Mouse came from and how the screenplay came about?
Yeah, sure. So Little Mouse, it's my first film that actually my first screenplay that I wrote, and certainly my first film that I directed. And the film came about, it started as a short story. And I then kind of was like, oh, I wonder if this could be a screenplay. My wife and I have a place a bit more upstate New York. And when we moved in, we did have a lot of mice. So that was sort of, infiltrating my thoughts.
Are you a mouse person or not a mouse person?
I don't know. I mean, I like mice,
Okay.
but it's a different experience when they're in your house.
Yeah, my wife can't stand it at all.
Yeah. So, and it was kind of new experience to me. So that in combination with just like my, life experience kind of came this story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you brought your family into it as well. Your sister's involved in the role as well.
Yep.
So was that easy casting, or did you make her work for it?
Well, it was easy casting. So Eva and I, we've worked together. We did one more short film that I was in. Eva wrote and directed actually a bunch of years ago.
Returning the favor here.
What'd you say?
Returning the favor here, maybe then.
Yeah. But I had a small part in her film. So, but I wrote this film, and Eva read it and was like, I would love to play this role. And after I was like, well, what about me? Then I got over that and I said, no, that would be great. And then she's like, what if we just did it? So we, started the ball rolling with both of us on board.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what was the shooting experience like?
Oh man.
Like, did you shoot the film you set out to make, or had it changed quite a bit?
It definitely changed. Like there was so when I first decided to make the film, I approached my friend John Patrick Hayden, also an actor, and I was like, look, I have the script, and he is a filmmaker, also a wonderful actor and a friend of mine, and I said, would you be willing to direct this? And he said, after he read the script, he was like, tell me why you don't want to direct this. And I was like, because I'm scared. And he was like, I think this is your story and that you should direct it. And what if I produced it? So it was like the best gift that anyone could give me, because I had a couple people along the way say, oh, you should direct this. There was another friend of ours that was going to direct it at one point. And then there was COVID, there was so many changes. And then John really kind of pushed me in that direction. And we talked a lot about it. And he really guided me sort of in the pre-production process of it. He introduced me to DPs and an art director and a sound he really brought these people together. He put it together.
He was a producer. He oversaw the whole experience.
Yeah, and he sort of was like, okay, now's the part where you do this. And I was like, well, I can't do that. He's like, yeah, you can. Go. And so he really he really helped me in that way. And he was like, there's the movie you write, that you shoot, and that you edit, and they're all three different things.
Yeah.
So I definitely learned that. I learned so much. It was like a wild experience for me, because I've been behind the camera. In front of the camera, just a very different experience. So John really, he kind of guided me in that way. And we shot it in 3 days, and we shot it at our house upstate, which was great because we had the location.
Big time. And it was only a one location shoot, right?
Well, one location until we did reshoots in the film, because in the editing process, I realized something wasn't right. And I was like, we have to reshoot this. So I went and had to re-get the mouse, because we have the live mouse in our film, which the
mouse's agent and Pratt was very difficult to work with, I heard, as well.
Very, very difficult. And the mouse was a drama queen. But she ended up at a school in Brooklyn after we were finished, and is living out a very beautiful life in Brooklyn with these kids. But I had to call and say, like, I need the mouse for a day. And so I drove to Brooklyn, got the stuff, did the thing, and like we reshot. And when we did that reshoot, I was like, well, since we're doing this, it would be really cool to have this shot. So we got to there's like a shot of a hardware store that was in the reshoot. We were like, did that
little
kind of
second unit be shooting, so to speak.
That's right.
Yeah.
But that was amazing that we could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the process. I always thank you for answering that so honestly, because I always feel like it's great to hear about people's process, and particularly how you stumble upon things as you go along.
Yeah.
And going like, oh, I didn't know I needed that until I had this.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have known otherwise.
Absolutely. I always think I learn from experiencing, from doing. And I was just talking to John actually, and he's like, you sort of went to grad school in the process of doing this, because it was I just, day to day was learning so much, and it was I was like, yeah, I kind of did, that's how I feel.
Well,
I mean, tons more to learn, but
speaking from being in the audience at the Inwood Film Festival, the film had a wonderful response.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So it seemed that people just really enjoyed the film through and through.
That was a great audience. It was such a supportive, film goer. You could just feel the vibe in there, and it was just packed, and it was one of the best responses we've had of sitting in the audience, because it's different every time.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. It's a great follow-up in the sense of that, what have you learned? Because you talked about the three different stages of, you're making your film, but then you have to let it go. And unlike theater, where you're sharing the breath, it's two-dimensional, right? So you have to see, okay, you don't get to control. The control is the movie, and then the audiences are the variable every time.
Yeah.
And so what have you learned from audiences watching your film?
I think it's been really interesting, who connects to the film. And I think it's it's a reminder of writing from an honest place, or how I want to follow through on the next thing that project I do, writing from an honest place, and how people connect to that. And that's what people want. And also humor. People really I love writing with humor, and I think that people respond to that, but also the truth of the story. So I think that when people connect to that it's a great experience, and then people get talking about their own experience and stuff. But there is nothing like sitting in an audience and hearing people laugh.
Oh, absolutely. And your film has some great, I think, they laugh because the moments are truthful and honest. I think.
Yeah.
Even the crazy ones with the fingernails and things like that.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
people, but then still based in that character's truth.
Yeah.
So.
And people laugh with when they identify. So I hope to continue writing things like that people connect with like that.
Well, I have no doubt they will. Going back to something you said before, you went to grad school by doing this show. So without going through the entire syllabi, what did you learn from making this film that you're going to carry on with you into the future?
Oh, wow.
other than just making the film. It's
Yeah.
like the major lessons.
Yeah.
Because I always feel like this podcast is kind of an educational aspect
Yeah.
to it. People take what they can from it.
Yeah. I think this is something that I learned over and over, but I really understood it like in a deeper way doing this is like the relationships, building relationships with people and finding people that I want to work with and want to like tell stories with, like for instance, like meeting my, the woman I worked with who was my cinematographer. Her name's Nada Stepanovic. And like, just like getting to work with her and like, being excited to like do the next thing, like, and how important that is. Like, I always was like, oh, like, I just understood on a deeper level, like meeting people, having a relationship with them and wanting to work with them again.
Yeah.
And like developing that language, I guess it was, which I felt like we did in a really short period of time, which like is something that like is hard to develop. So like definitely like finding the people that I want, because that was like part of it, like, okay, who's gonna be doing this and this and this part of it. So, or like, your editor, my editor was great. And like, Teresa Torchiano, a lot of women on our team. And so it was just, I think that, and also just like being prepared. I'm never upset when I'm prepared. Like, it's like, I'm never like, oh, I prepared too much.
There's no substitution for hard work and preparation,
It's
right?
true.
Yeah.
It's true. And that's what I learned in like pre-production. And like, that was like something like that my friend John, like really like was like, I know this seems like a lot now, but you're going to be so grateful that when we get to shooting, you're like, and like knowing the story inside and out and like knowing like, so that you can like know the rules and then break them.
Yep.
So I think that that's something that I would take away too. And just like having the perspective of having the experience of having edited and now sitting and editing and then being able to shoot something else. Like, it's just really different, like having that knowledge, which I didn't have before.
And having a great editor for that third step of making the film is so key.
So key.
Because you had your director hat on, but then you have to have someone there to say, well, but we can either do this, or this.
Yeah.
Choose.
Yeah.
Narrow it down. And also editors can't create things that aren't there.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, which was really why we reshot. Well, there was a couple of reasons why we did. It was a major scene, actually, that it was like the very end of the film, actually. And it was, the way that I wrote it was like that Eva, AKA Betsy in the film, had like this like moment of like extreme grief and a breakdown. And the movie just didn't hold it. Like, it was, she did wonderful and it was beautiful. I have a lot of footage of Eva crying and I made her do it. But it was not right. Yeah. But also the light was off. So it looked like the middle of the day and it was supposed to be sunrise. So I was like, I think we just have to reshoot this because it's not right anyway. So it was sort of like a gift that we made this mistake.
Yeah.
And then we changed it so it was like a mirror image of the beginning of the film. And it worked. Excellent. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Let's talk about when the film's done and it's out there. What have you learned about distribution and getting the film out there? You know what? Like, that's a really good question. Distribution, I don't know. Like, I had someone approach me after we did our world premiere about distribution, and like, first I'm doing the film festival circuit because once you distribute the film, to my understanding, you can't do the film festivals anymore if it's distributed. If it's sold to something else, it depends on when the rights begin, the rights end. Yeah. Yeah. So you probably know way more. I should actually sit down and talk to you about this after. Well, I'm just a lonely podcaster, folks. Yeah. Right. But so right now we're just like focusing on the film festivals because we still have like many more to find out about and go to. So we've got a bunch coming in the fall. So I'm going to like circle back to the distribution thing after, like, seems okay. I talked to like an entertainment lawyer friend, and I was like, because I don't really know how that works.
That's a great
for
answer.
Short film.
That's a great answer. You don't have to know.
Yeah.
It's like finding out, because like I said, we've had a lot of filmmakers on this podcast. We have a lot of filmmakers listening to this podcast, and everyone's finding their own way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think that's, if you're out there and listening and you want to reach out to Lena for help, that would be great, because I happily talk to you, of course.
Yeah.
But it is being your first film out there on your own. There is no wrong answer.
Yeah.
The only wrong answer is to not try to get it out there.
Yeah.
That's the only wrong answer. And by get it out there, I mean, like, and I think you're talking like, your relationships, the people you just said who, you learn from, is like, now you have these people in your back pocket who you will work with again and move forward 100%. With you and different projects. Like, who do they know, and who do those people know that can, do they have an in at, I don't know, whatever film festival you like to be in, Greenwich Village or something like that, or whatever you feel like is appropriate, that you want to, move it forward. Not everything is con based. Sundance or Tribeca. I mean, I know everyone thinks that's the holy grail, but it really isn't. It's wonderful for the recognition, of course, because there are people who go to these worlds of streaming and studios that they go there, and so the idea is that the film moves on. I think that's the problem that people don't realize, is that Tribeca or Sundance or wherever else, Toronto or something, it's like, that's not the end.
Right.
That's hopefully a trampoline to bounce off of and go out, and the name of the game and distribution is for the film to keep living.
Yeah.
That's the end. That is the only goal, I feel, in my piece of advice.
Yeah.
But if you or anybody else out there have other ways of chiming in, folks, feel free to let us know. It feels like you have some great festivals coming up.
Yeah.
And to keep on moving and shaking with those. Yeah.
And it's like every time, and I'm going to all the festivals, and my sister is too, and like, to every festival that we're able to, and like at each festival we're just meeting so many incredible people and so many incredible filmmakers. Like, there are a lot of really creative people.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I've learned so much by watching other people's films. It's been really mind-blowing.
Well, and speaking of, you're one of them.
Oh, thanks.
So now you've tasted success with this film.
Yeah.
What's your next one? Or next project?
My next project, I have, I've been working on, as far as film goes, I'm actually leaving on Monday to go do an acting job.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. At theater. Like, I'm going to do a play in Maine, so I'll be gone for a bit. I'm excited actually to go. My friend took over this theater. It's in the Stonington Opera House in Maine.
I remember.
Do you do?
I remember that place. I've never purposely been there, but I also have an acting background from 18 years of my life in the past.
There you
go. And never made it to Maine because I was more of a Midwestern guy, making the circuit around Ohio, Indiana, and Wisconsin and stuff, and Illinois. But Stonington Opera House has been around for a long time.
Yeah. So my friend Catherine Murky, who I've worked with before, oops, I just banged that. She is now the artistic director there right now. And so we're going to do Almost Maine by John Ciriani, also a Washington Heights guy.
Yes, he's up here too, right?
Yeah, he sure is.
Yeah, get him on the podcast sometime.
Yeah, get him.
That'd be great.
Yeah, he's terrific, and I'm really excited. So, but she's going to let me do a reading of one of my plays there, which I'm really excited about.
A new one?
A new one of my plays. It's called Salvage. So I'm excited about that, and she's going to let me use the cast. I've already cast it.
Great.
I'm excited. They don't know yet. And then and I have an idea for a short that I have a script actually, and I'm excited about it. And it's sort of like a coming of age story.
Well, you should apply it to the Inwood Filmmaker Fund.
I'm going to.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I have a whole plan. When I get to Maine, I have to get it. I got to revamp everything, and then I'm going to. So,
for those of you who don't know, we give out grants to local filmmakers, and the bottom line is you got to live here to qualify. So we'd love to have make sure you know about it. It's amazing to me how people don't know about it. That's why I brought it up only because it's
amazing.
It's the fifth year of doing this, and still people have no idea it exists. And we give up to $5,000, and maybe more depending on, what we can do. We try to help people out and to local filmmakers. And, we've given out over $75,000 in the past few years to people.
Yeah,
so.
I am applying. I'm going to get right in under the deadline.
I'm glad you're applying.
But I have a whole plan.
My point is I hope others do too. So
you'll read my script.
Oh, excellent.
But I got to work on it. I got to really pare it down.
You'd be shocked at how many scripts I read that we do end up funding and producing, quote unquote, we'll say funding for a better term. And that just turns out to be like 20% of what the film ends up being. Sometimes, most of the times, the filmmakers are really good about it. But, if there's a change of scope or something like that, if you're no longer making the film, it's like, there has to be a conversation. But,
well, things change so much.
But things do change so much.
Yeah.
But it's like, we're no longer doing, Peer Gynt, we're doing Our Wilderness.
Right.
I'm like, well, that's a little different change of scope. I think we need to talk about the grant.
Right.
Most of all, though, people are really good. But yes, we do expect the films to change from the script, of course. A screenplay, excuse me.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that there is going to be a next short or feature or doc or whatever you're going to be doing.
I'm excited about it. And like another thing, like just going back to like the working with people too, like, I got to work with so many amazing friends, like people, like it was my first film, but then it was like a lot of people's like first time doing things, like all the composers of my film are good friends of mine, but it was their first score. So it was Andrea Witkins, Kate Vargas, Eric McFadden, all Washington Heights people. And
Andrew's been on the podcast.
Yeah, all amazing like musicians, but they'd never scored anything. So when I said, and they're all like my closest friends, and I'm like, you guys, I'm like, would you want to do this? So like my next film is really music centric too, and so and they will all be involved.
Excellent.
So it's I like that merging of the worlds, and like I love music, and I sing with them, and it's fun.
And you're a person who can work with friends. There are people who cannot work with their friends too, which is something to bring up as well.
For sure. I mean, you definitely have to and we've definitely, I think there's certain people that I can work with and certain people that I can't, but they're all amazing, and it's all about finding the balance and trust and stuff like that. Cool. Yeah. Well, we look forward to the submission, and we look forward to the public hearing about it at some point. Thanks. And so in moving forward, where can we go to find all things about you? Oh, yeah. So our Instagram for the film is @LittleMouseTheMovie. That's Instagram. Our website is also littlemousethemovie.com. My personal Instagram, which I post a lot of stuff about the film too, is just my name, @Lena Kaminsky. So, Excellent. That's kind of it. So, listeners, you can find those links in the podcast, okay? In the description of the episode. Well, thanks again, Lena, for being a guest. Really appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you. You bet. So, this is Inwood Art Works On Air. It's where I meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes that make their home here in northern Manhattan. If you have a moment, please show us some love right now and rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts. It really does help. Many thanks to Holy Trinity Church here for hosting us, and to heightscites.com for uptown promotional support. And you can support On Air and all of our programming making a tax-free donation at inwoodartworks.nyc/donate or at Venmo via Venmo at Inwood Art Works. Be sure to follow us on social media to keep up all that we do, which includes the Inwood Film Festival, Filmworks Alfresco, live performances, and pop-up art galleries, and so much more. And you can support On Air. Please do. Inwood Art Works On Air is proud to be supported in part by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council. And our programming is made possible by the New York State Council on the Arts with the support of the Office of the Governor and the New York State Legislature. From the top of Manhattan and the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Aaron Sims for Inwood Art Works On Air.